Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into a defining moment in India's fight for freedom, a topic that's an absolute cornerstone for every UPSC aspirant, the civil disobedience movement. We're going to break down where it came from, how it swept the nation, and the incredible legacy it left behind.
So, let's get right to it. How on earth did a simple grain of salt become this powerful weapon against the British Empire? It's pretty amazing when you think about it. This whole thing kicked off with an act of defiance so simple, yet so profound that it completely shook the foundations of the Raj. It was a masterclass in showing how moral courage can be way more powerful than military might.
And the story of this massive nationwide movement really begins with one single powerful act. We're talking about Mahatma Gandhi's march to Dandi, that symbolic act of making salt by the sea. That one moment is what lit the fuse.
So what was the civil disobedience movement all about, really? Well, at its core, it was a mass satyagraha, a philosophy of nonviolent resistance. But here's the key difference this time around. The goal was crystal clear. Purna Swaraj, complete independence. We're not talking about reforms anymore. The goal was full-on liberation.
Okay, so Gandhi's march was the spark. But that spark landed on some very, very dry kindling. The fire of protest just exploded, spreading from the southern coasts all the way to the northwestern frontiers. It turned a single act of defiance into a rebellion that engulfed the entire subcontinent.
Now this slide, this is pure gold for your revision notes, because it perfectly captures the all-India character of the movement. Just look at the diversity here. You've got C. Rajagopalachari leading the Veteranian March in the south, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan's red shirts up in the northwest, and of course, Sarojini Naidu's incredible raid on the Darasan Salt Works. It shows you this was never just about salt. It was a nationwide rejection of unjust British rule.
But who are the actual people on the ground making all this happen? A movement is nothing without the masses. So let's take a closer look at the diverse groups that formed the real backbone of this national protest, because who participated and who didn't is a really critical part of the story.
The movement's power came from literally every corner of Indian society. You had students in the cities boycotting classes, you had tribal communities in the forests protesting restrictive laws. Everyone had their own reasons to fight, but they all came together under that one common cause of independence. Okay, pay attention, because this is a super important point, especially for your exams. The participation in the civil disobedience movement looked very different from the earlier non-cooperation movement. For one, Muslim involvement was much lower this time, and that's partly due to the growing influence of the Muslim League and the British policy of divide and rule. Also, in the cities, support from professionals like lawyers and students wasn't as strong, maybe because the appeal of revolutionary figures like Bhagat Singh was growing.
And here you can see exactly what these different groups were doing. Women took on public leadership roles like never before. It was a truly liberating experience for so many. Peasants hit the British where it hurt with powerful no rent and no tax campaigns. And the business classes, especially communities like the Calcutta Marwari, gave that crucial financial backing. While students and the youth, well, they were the energetic engine, organizing all the strikes and boycotts.
But this level of intensity, it's just not sustainable forever. The government was cracking down hard, and some groups were starting to lose steam. A strategic shift was needed. So let's look at the complicated mix of factors that led to a truce, a temporary but really important pause in the struggle.
This timeline really shows you the stop-start roller coaster nature of the movement's later stages. The big moments to remember: the Gandhi-Irwin Pact in March 1931, which put things on hold, Gandhi then going to the Second Roundtable Conference, and then after that failed, the movement kicking off again in 1932. But the government repression was brutal, and eventually the movement was suspended and then officially called off in 1934.
The Gandhi-Irwin Pact. This was a huge deal. Why? Because for the very first time, you have the British Viceroy negotiating with Indian leaders as if they were equals. For the British, it was a way to stop a crisis that was spiraling out of control. But for the Congress, it was a massive win. It gave the whole movement incredible political legitimacy, forcing the empire to come to the table.
All right, so here's the big question, the one you'll almost definitely see on an exam. Since the movement was withdrawn without achieving Purna Swaraj, was it a failure? Well, like most things in history, the answer isn't that simple. Let's really dig into the true, long-term legacy of this incredible chapter of defiance.
And really, this is what it all boils down to. Do you see it as a tactical defeat because it didn't hit its immediate target? Or was it something more, an absolutely essential foundation for the freedom that would come just over a decade later? Getting this right is key to understanding its real importance.
So while it didn't win independence right then and there, the movement's impact was profound. It built up enormous political support and established the moral authority of the Congress Party. And the proof is right here, the landslide victory for Congress in the 1937 provincial elections. That was a clear, undeniable mandate from the Indian people.
And this is so important. The movement didn't just change the political landscape, it changed the Congress Party itself from the inside out. The Karachi Resolution is a perfect example. It started talking about fundamental rights and a more socialist economic policy. You even see the formation of the Congress Socialist Party. This whole thing wasn't just about kicking the British out, it was about imagining what kind of nation independent India would be.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? Complete independence wasn't the immediate result, no. But the civil disobedience movement was like a national crash course in mass mobilization, in high-stakes political negotiation, and in the kind of ideological growth a nation has to go through when it's on the verge of freedom. It didn't just fight for a nation. In many ways, it helped create